Formed in the late 1970s as the Stains and playing their first gig under this name in August 1980, MDC were one of three pioneering hardcore punk bands in Austin, Texas in the early 80s, alongside the Dicks and Big Boys. These bands frequently played together and established the Austin hardcore scene. They released one single as the Stains in 1981, featuring a slower version of the future MDC song John Wayne Was a Nazi, backed with Born to Die. Both songs were later released on the debut MDC album. By 1982, the band had relocated to San Francisco, California, and renamed themselves MDC. By this point, the band were active participants in the growing hardcore scene and released their debut LP Millions of Dead Cops on their own label. Our radical Jello Biafra's alternative Tentacles helped with distribution. The album is now widely considered a punk classic, and features songs such as John Wayne Was a Nazi, Dick for Brains, and the harsh criticism of the police I Remember. Other targets of criticism, devoid of irony, included capitalism, homophobia, and American culture. During the summer of 1982, they became involved in the Rock Against Reagan Tour, during which time they fell out with the band Bad Brains when Rastafarian singer HR learned that Big Boys singer Randy Turner was gay. HR and MDC's Dave Dictor had an intense confrontation. Upon Bad Brains' departure from the bill, they refused to return a loan owed to Big Boys and instead left a note that reportedly read "Burn in Hell, bloodclot, faggot." The incident resulted in the MDC song Pay to Come Along. For MDC, 1982 ended with a tour of Europe with the Dead Kennedys, which brought the band greater exposure in the punk scene outside of the US, especially in the UK. Their involvement in the Rock Against Reagan activities continued through 1983, and they returned to recording with the EP Multi-Death Corporations, which was distributed in the UK by British anarcho-punk label Crass Records and are radical in the US. The EP broke new ground by addressing, in the lengthy liner notes and artwork, the growth of corporations and the violent suppression of left-wing politics in Central America. In 1984, they released another EP, Millions of Dead Children, this time dealing with vegetarian and vegan issues via a cowpunk tune. Iconoclastic punk rock cartoonist John Crawford, an outspoken critic of the band, was cynical in his assessment of the alteration of the band's initial name, which he characterized as stupid and inflammatory. Smoke Signals was released in 1986, their second album featuring a more diverse style than previously, with a foray into 70s rock with the song South Africa Is Free. This album also saw Gordon Fraser's first appearance as main guitarist. In the same year, MDC backed Michelle Shocked on a version of her song Fogtown that appears as a hidden track on her breakthrough album Short Sharp Shocked. Their third album, This Blood's For You, followed in 1987 and saw them continuing to showcase orthodox hardcore punk style and classic rock, including a cover of the Cream song Politician. Themes again included intervention in Central America and criticism of the Reagan administration. MDC toured Europe in 1988, where the live album Elvis in the Rhineland was recorded. The band released the album Metal Devil Cokes in 1989 with guitar player Eric Calhoun and bassist Joe Strom. The 1990s opened with a number of lineup changes, swiftly followed by the 1991 album Hey Cop, If I Had a Face Like Yours, featuring Bill Collins on guitar and Matt Freeman on bass. Collins wrote all the music on the album and sang 3 of the songs. This lineup toured the US and Europe. The acclaimed Shades of Brown album appeared in 1993, released by New Red Archives in the US and We Bite in Europe. The album featured the hip-hop vegetarian song Real Food, Real People, Real Bullets. MDC Now, with guitarist Chris Wilder and bassist Erica Liss, marked the album with a tour of the former Soviet Union, making MDC the first American punk band to tour Russia. This was followed by 2 more European tours and several US tours until 1995, where began a lull in the band's activity. The lack of new recorded material, Other than a 7-inch release on Slap-a-Ham Records, and live performances after 1994 plus personal problems of band members, pointed to an informal breakup of the band. MDC's singer Dave Dictor returned with an entirely new backing lineup in 2000, which included Long Island musicians Matt Van Cura on bass, Eric Michaud on guitar and John Soldo on drums. MDC released a new album Magnus Dominus Corpus in 2004. They took part in a 25th anniversary world tour in 2005 with an all-original lineup. Following the death of Mikey Donaldson in September 2007, MDC has been touring the US and Europe extensively with the Dictor, Posner, Smith, Schvitz lineup. In November 2016, MDC released a video for the forthcoming release of a new recording of Born to Die, made to protest the Donald Trump presidential campaign. The song's slogan "No Trump, No KKK, No Fascist USA" was reported to be heard at anti-Trump demonstrations in Chicago. At the 2016 American Music Awards on November 20th, the band Green Day adopted the anti-Trump slogan for a controversial impromptu chant during their live on-air performance, which Dictor applauded and encouraged. The media spotlight Green Day's action put on MDC inspired the band to create new material based around the current political climate. The album entitled Main Trump was released in 2017.